Claudia Russell from Cohasset Beacons. I'm here in Town Hall with two of our guests today. We've got Pam Fahey here, who's our health agent in Cohasset. And we also have Mary Goodwin. Mary Goodwin is our public health nurse. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your roles here in the town and what you do for our communities? Pam, why don't we start with you?
Sure. So I'm the town health agent, and I'm in charge of kind of two aspects of town public health. Inspections. So I do inspections of food, restaurants. I do septic inspections, septic plan approvals. Those are kind of the two biggest health issues are food and septic. And then the other things are housing inspections, pools, beaches, nuisance inspections. So it's a whole gamut, a whole range of public health issues.
Oh, wow. So town inspections for not only the pools, but also restaurants and things like that?
That's right. And then there's also an education piece too, the things that we can't really control. So we try to do education pieces in terms of triple E, Lyme disease, vector-borne illnesses, things like that.
Oh, wow.
So it's kind of a combination of inspections and education.
And Mary, how about you?
So I'm the public health nurse for the town, and my role, I do many different things. I coordinate all the flu clinics for the town. Currently, we're in the midst of flu season right now, so we have had 2 flu clinics. I have 2 to go. We vaccinate roughly 700 residents.
Wow, that's a lot of
year.
residents.
Yeah.
How much would that account for in our population?
That'd be about 10% of the population.
Wow.
I do all the communicable diseases inspections and surveillance, so that's all your, foodborne illnesses, TB, things of that nature. I inspect all the recreational camps in town. By state law, we're required to inspect them every year before they open. I coordinate the health and rec fair with the recreation department. I do a lot of outreach work with elder affairs. I do home visits. I'm involved in a program called Cohasset Cares, which is the fire department, elder affairs, and myself. We make home visits and do safety evaluations and offer residents smoke detectors, carbon monoxide, and just make sure that they're aging in place safely.
Wow. So you two ladies are quite busy.
We are busy.
Yeah, we are busy.
Yeah. In terms of for a town our size, I mean, what would you say some are the biggest threats or the biggest things to worry about?
So we get a report each year about cancer rates, and Cohasset has an actually elevated cancer rate for women with skin cancer. So we try to do education outreach. We go to the beach once a summer and give out sunscreen and do sun screenings. We do the same thing at farmers market. And then the other thing that we feel like is a big hot topic, big issue, is the triple E threat that we just had this year, and it's probably going to happen again next year because it tends to happen in 2 or 3 year cycles. Also ticks. Tick illnesses, Mary's seen a big spike in those, and with global warming, it's only expected to get worse. So I think those are our biggest threats right now in terms of health.
So just to tag on to that, the particular type of skin cancer is melanoma, which is, of the 3 types of skin cancer, the most serious to get. So that's why we try to do a lot of outreach around that. But I also worry, I'm always concerned about a pandemic flu. We just never know. We did have H1N1 a few years ago, and so we're always watching for that.
In terms of the schools and the town, I mean, how do you, do you notice that it's more with our elderly population, with our high school and our school community, or is it, would you say, across the board?
Oh, the melanoma?
Yeah, as well as the flu.
Melanoma tends to hit people a little bit older, not so much kids because they're still young, and hopefully we're reaching that population. We are really against tanning beds. They just do a lot of harm. So yeah, the melanoma.
Right, it's a long-term exposure,
right.
So it's usually older people.
Yeah.
But if you can reach people, like you say, as they're younger, then maybe you can prevent it in the future.
Right. So we work with the Children's Melanoma Prevention Foundation, which their focus is to get into the schools and educate kids young. So that's who we do our beach promotions with usually. So.
Yeah, living in a seaside community like we do, I'm sure that it's hard in the summertime, especially.
Right. And people golf and they ski, and You just don't realize how much sun exposure you get.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And then the vector-borne diseases, be it Triple E or Lyme disease, that affects everybody across the board.
Yeah.
So it's important to try to
Yeah.
reach everybody if we can.
On a lighter note, who got you guys interested in this role or in the this profession?
For me, I actually kind of came on the side way. I was actually more interested in environmental work, and that's why I was an environmental scientist for 30 years before I came here. But I was an environmental scientist in the terms of health. I was looking at people's exposure to chemicals in the environment, and that's actually a piece of hazardous waste cleanup. But my company tried to push us to all belong to boards, and so I joined my local board of health, again, probably 15, 20 years ago. And that's when I realized, wow, I really like this job, the health agent job. I could really get into this. I feel like there was a big crossover. I had my master's degree in public health. And I kind of had in the back of my mind that someday maybe I'd just try to transition over. It took me a while, but I finally did it. And I'm glad I made the jump. It's a good job.
Well, how about you, Mary?
So I've been a registered nurse for many years, and I've done all different types of nursing, and then I stayed home with my children for 10 years. And then I started to be a substitute school nurse in town, and then the woman who had the job before me, I used to cover for her. So then when she retired, it was just a natural progression into it. So
Oh wow.
anyway,
Yeah. It's a great profession, and you help thousands of people. I'm sure in your lifetime you're going to help even more. So
that's what we try to do.
Yeah.
with 700 flu clinics,
Flu
flu shots.
Yeah.
And along those, I also wanted to just say that if anyone needs a flu shot, any elder who can't get out for whatever reason, I'm happy to make a home visit and vaccinate them.
So in terms of healthcare, as you know, we have the our Massachusetts health plan. So how would somebody go about, in our public, our viewers, how would they go about getting the flu shot if they do or don't have health insurance? Is that something that is needed?
Yeah, no, they don't need. It doesn't matter if they have insurance. I do purchase the vaccine, and I will submit a claim to their insurance, but they do not have to have insurance to get vaccinated.
That's great. That's
Yeah,
great that you
so-
offer that to all
So
our
they
residents.
can just call my office, and I'm happy to go see them.
That's great. So in terms of healthcare issues, you say that you work a lot with the elderly community here in town, and how do you what kind of assistance do you provide the elderly community?
So every Monday morning and Tuesdays from 11 to 2, I have an office over at Wolcott Commons, which is the senior center. And Monday mornings I see a lot of people. I do a lot of blood pressures, medication teaching, diet teaching, wound care, injections. All I need is a doctor's order to do that. So I'm really busy over there with seniors. And then I do make home visits periodically to check on people.
Oh wow, that's wonderful. That's
Yeah.
great.
good.
I'm sure you're relieved to their sons and daughters and family that
Oh, I think
may
so.
not be nearby.
Right. I
Yeah.
think so. Yeah.
That's a great resource to have in our community.
It is.
What excites you about the job? What are some of the things that you say, wow, this is, amazing, or a great day, or, I'm sure it's not seeing people sick,
Yeah.
but.
No, well, I find it exciting because you just never know what's going to come up on from day to day. Every day is different.
Yeah, it's true.
We just never know who's going to walk in the door with whatever issue, and so that's exciting because it's always different.
Yeah.
It is. And I've really enjoyed meeting people. I've only been here a year and a half, but in a year and a half I've met so many great people, all the restaurant people, septic installers, engineers, people within town hall, and residents. It's been great. Residential kitchens. I like going to people's houses and chatting with them and checking out their setup, and every day it's been really good.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
great. So in terms of restaurants, if you wanted to open up a restaurant, what kind of process would you have to follow to do that?
So it kind of depends. If you're, if it's either, say, new construction, or you're taking over a restaurant, you're going to do major changes, you'd want to do a new restaurant floor plan or site plan. And we would review the floor plan, make sure that you have the necessary 3-bay sink and hand sinks and hoods and things like that. So then once we would approve the floor plan, then when you're starting to get close to opening, you'd submit an application for a food permit. And that would also include the necessary certifications. You want your workers to be ServSafe certified, allergen awareness certified, choke saver, depending on the size of the restaurant. And then before we issue the permit, when everything checks out, we want to do a pre-inspection. So we'll walk through and check that the water's the right temperature, the refrigerators and freezers are the right temperature, make sure everything works. And then once everything checks out, then we will issue the food permit. And then going forward after that, we'll do an inspection every 6 months and make sure everything's good.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. Oh. And so in terms of pools, now you said you also do pool inspections. So for all of those viewers that have a pool at their place or are looking to have a pool installed in their homes, what would you say to them?
Well, so my duty is to actually inspect the public pools. So we just have a limited number here in town. So we have the big town pool. Avalon has a pool. Anything that's semi-public, Avalon, and then believe it or not, the Situate Racket Club, even though it's located in Situate, it sits on the town line, and the pool actually falls into Cohasset.
Oh, so we manage the pool.
So yes, we inspect the pool down there. So I really just do 3 big pools.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. So if there was a health emergency or a health crisis, how would you, as a viewer or a community resident, handle that? What would be the steps that you'd recommend they should take? And what would a health crisis or emergency consist of?
So one thing, Pam and I are members of the emergency management team in town. So one scenario that we sort of drill for is called an emergency dispensing site, and we just went to a thing today about that. And so, if they create a certain scenario, and so we have plans in place for how to respond to that. How would you get medication out to your whole town within a very tight time frame, like 48 hours? So those are plans that we're always updating and trying to work with, and so we have plans for that.
Yeah.
Right. From a public health standpoint, we're pretty much emergency dispensing site. That would be our task.
Yeah.
And how to do that in 48 hours and without creating panic. So we're always working on that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So how would you say you'd like to spend your free time? Like, what are some of the activities that you guys do outside of work?
So I enjoy reading. I enjoy walking. I walk my dog. The woods here are beautiful. Whitney Woods, Wheelwright. We have really great walking places. So
as long as you, the socks up and stay away from ticks, right?
That's right.
tuck your pants into your socks. Wear your
light clothing.
Wear your insecticide. You really do
Right.
need to do that when you go in the woods. So.
Tick checks afterwards.
Tick checks, daily.
Yeah. So some of the things that we saw in the Cohasset Town website, and if I can read this to you, in terms of the mission of the health department is to provide the residents of the town of Cohasset with comprehensive, high-quality public health services through the evaluation and developing new town policies, procedures, regulations, statements, and programs in the area of public health nursing, environmental health, and other public health disciplines. So as a lay person, these are far-reaching responsibilities that you two have for the town. Can you break down for our viewers a brief description of your daily, monthly, weekly, or annually job-related responsibilities? What's the average day for you guys like?
Do you want me to go first?
Go ahead.
Okay. So for me, my average day kind of depends upon the season. So in the springtime, it's a lot of permitting for the farmers market. There's a lot of activities that go on out here at the town common. We have the arts festival and the triathlon. So I have to permit all those, anything that's going to have food. And so that's kind of a lot of the stuff that goes on in the springtime. The summertime, there's the pool inspections, the beach inspections. And whenever we have a beach failure, I'm usually the one that has to run down to the beach and take the sample to the lab. And
We've
then
had a lot of those in the last year.
We
Red
have.
tide, I think, or what something, the alkali lily of the water.
Well, so we've had high bacteria levels that have shut down the beach.
That's what it was.
And generally it's after some kind of rainstorm. And also part of the problem too is the waters are getting warmer, and warmer water promotes algae growth. So we may have more closings in the future, but one good note is I just went to a conference and I met somebody that's a lab director in New Bedford, and it turns out their New Bedford lab is open on the weekends. I was talking to him about beach testing, and if I could take some samples on a Friday down there, we could get the beaches open faster.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway,
I'm
that's
sure all our viewers would love that. Yeah.
that's an aside, but and so then this time of year in early winter, it's a lot of permitting for the restaurants for the 2020 season. Not to mention the installers and everybody else that we have to permit. So the average day starts off with kind of reading messages, maybe going through some permit approvals. At some point, I usually tend to go out and do an inspection, whether it's follow up with a restaurant inspection, follow up with a septic inspection, a plan review. And then I have like an ongoing project I'm trying to do now of update our list of private wells, because that's one of our big duties is we're supposed to keep the list of all the private wells in town. So when people do new construction or put in a new septic, they need to know where's a private well. You don't want to contaminate a private well.
Yeah.
So our records are a little spotty. So that's one of my ongoing projects is trying to make sure that that thing's up to date. So yeah, like Mary says, it varies. You never know what's going to come on a message or a phone call or something.
Yeah, absolutely.
And as Pam said, it's cyclical. You know, it really depends on summertime is camps, and I help Pam with the beaches if she's not here. It's beaches. That's a big job trying to keep up with that.
And usually when I'm on vacation is when it goes bad.
It goes bad. I have to go in the water. And then fall is all about flu for me, you know, flu clinics and just coordinating all of that. And then along with that, all the paperwork and the billing. So that keeps me busy. And then there are always communicable diseases that come up. You know, hepatitis A is a big one. Somebody ate something that's contaminated. There's a lot of legwork that has to go into interviewing the patient, find out where they ate, when they ate, what they ate, and working closely with the state to see if maybe we're dealing with an outbreak or, you know, did it happen at a restaurant and is there a sick worker at a restaurant? So that's labor intensive. And then like I said, the Health and Rec Fair has kind of taken on a life of its own. It's every March. It's big. So that starts in January, trying to coordinate that. And then hopefully we don't have to open a warming center in the midst of that. You know, if the power goes out, if we have a storm, we're very involved in that. So, yeah, it's always
busy, something
Always
different
busy.
every day.
Yeah.
So with our 250th celebration of Cohasset coming up, do you guys have any activities or plans in the near future?
We
I
have
don't think we have anything specifically
anything
planned.
yet for that.
Yeah.
We haven't really thought about that. We probably should.
Yeah.
Um,
Maybe that's where we can do some of our outreach and education.
yeah.
You know, be
Right.
it ticks or sunscreen or
Right.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah, we probably will.
Yeah.
Probably do that, but we don't have any formal plans.
Right.
Not yet. Not yet.
Not yet, but we will.
So, to let our viewers know about your processes, your contact information, or activities and events, how would they best be able to get a hold of you or find out about your group?
Well, there's a couple of ways. I mean, they can always call the town hall, 781-383-4100, and then my extension is 5130.
I'm 5119
Or email mgoodwin@cohassetma.org.
or pfahey@cohassetma.org. And then our town website. You can go to the health department
Right.
tab, whatever you call it. Yeah. And we try to post things there on a regular basis.
Yeah. Great. So I want to thank you for taking the time to speak with us. Is there anything you'd like to share with our viewers that we haven't discussed already?
Wear your sunscreen.
Yeah, wear your sunscreen and come to our TikToks. you
Yes.
know. They're actually very
good.
entertaining.
Yeah.
And
so-
TikToks is where they learn about ticks and Lyme
Yes.
disease and all that.
Right.
Oh.
Right. Those are typically in the spring, early spring.
Yeah. Yeah. And where are those held at?
It varies. We usually put out announcements on Facebook, Town Hall website, the Mariner, and we try to give people a heads up because
Yeah.
the person we have speak is really good. He's
Very good.
excellent.
Yeah. Oh, great. So everyone out there, you know Pam and Mary, you know where to find them. So, and keep an eye out for those ticks and
Right.
put on your sunscreen.
That's right. Thank
This
you.
is Claudia Russell with Cohasset Beacons, and thank you all.